I want to keep pouring into this space with insights from my own creative practice, and I'd already mentioned that the emphasis of my focus at the moment is more in that domain, which is great. It means that I'm giving myself some time and space to explore that and to reclaim time and energy and space for that, which has been consumed by more of a kind of leaning towards business development and facilitation and that kind of action and those kind of tasks. But this space is ultimately informed by my own creative work, and part of this ecosystem with research, facilitation, creative practice, as much as it's about trying to find some kind of balance or equilibrium and flow between them, there are also points where one area will have maybe a kind of saturation of energy or a focal point or like an intensive period. But the great thing is about that it kind of overflows and it spills into these other channels, providing you have structured, like I'm saying ecosystem, but yeah, operating systems, even processes, that you have actually created outlets for that energy to go somewhere, that inspiration to go somewhere. So yeah, I have been gifting myself more time and space to support foundational elements of my creative practice as it relates to training and development with the body. And I'd spoken kind of earlier in the year about getting back into a routine with going to the gym and having that discipline and allowing the kind of training mindset stuff to really shape and structure how I'm approaching creative work, but also how I'm approaching other tasks that need to be done, especially having to do a lot of desk-based work, and a lot of kind of editing and sitting and screen time. I'm trying to balance that out by deliberately creating space in the week where I'm moving, I'm doing some kind of activity. It's not always strength training, but I've been doing lots of flexibility and mobility stuff recently, which has been great, and that's been a really good counter to the rigidity of sitting at a desk. And I'm quite a fidgety fidgety person anyway, so I do find when I've been doing stuff on the screen, for example, I can find myself contracting somewhat, and so it's been really nice to have space to explore the body and to ask it to take up more space and to be exploratory in reacquainting definitely a bit of that with some kind of stretching stuff that has definitely awakened some muscles and things like that were ready ready to kind of have a little prod, in tandem with this springtime energy of unfurling and expanding and growing and moving and twisting. So I wanted to just bring in a little bit of an insight from a dance class that I attended this morning, and there was a really nice introduction to that in the kind of warming up phase, which was about inviting self-touch. And it's really nice to be in a receiving space, to experience someone else facilitating, especially when it's an invitation to bring attention to yourself through a tactile experience. And actually, the words that were used were about exploring the landscape of your body, and that really resonated with me. And when I speak about body as instrument, I think that parallel is so clear, but it's something that's really tangible and it's visible as well. Like the landscape of your body, it kind of sparks the imagination, and it activates that like visual part of your brain, but also like the kinesthetic learning as well, because you've got suddenly this idea of like, okay, well, how am I traveling through that landscape? How am I responding to the elements within that landscape? How does the landscape have an effect on my emotional self? Or are we talking about physical landscape? Are we talking about emotional landscape? And then if we're thinking about these dimensions of voice as well, then that immediately sparks for me like, okay, well, the physiological landscape, the spiritual, the emotional, the social, the psychological, like they could all be described elements wise as different landscapes or different destination points within the self, equally, that you are the container that is kind of housing all of this stuff. And your agency is there to, yeah, explore it and navigate it and experiment with these different aspects. So that really like sparked something in my like creative brain this morning, and it was really nice just to, yeah, be invited towards a quality of intimacy with self, which can be quite a vulnerable thing to do at the best of times, but especially if you're in a room with other bodies and you're being invited to explore a relationship with kind of, yeah, like softer, more vulnerable locations, and also to navigate that relationship of intentionality with how you're making contact and starting to think about the breath. You know, these are often things that feel quite private. Not to say that we necessarily do them in private. I think we, as a rule, don't do them enough, and that is why they are so powerful. So in a way, you've got the juxtaposition of like, it feels like something that's quite, personal, but you're doing it in a space with others. But then because you know that other people are also doing that and in their own kind of internal journeys, and also you have that like visual reminder, if you choose to like engage and look around you, it creates that sense of accountability and that sense of, oh, like I can do this, it's okay because other people are doing it as well. So yeah, it was just a nice reminder for me about how important touch is, and also, yeah, exploring the body as an instrument, or landscape. And that means understanding that it has range and it has depth and it has different points where energy kind of gathers together, or different outlets where energy can flow through, or different places where there might be patterns of holding that would like to be softened. Yeah, different textures, different sensations. And when you give yourself time to be with yourself in that way, you are reinforcing and receiving feedback, but you're also like you're tuning your sensitivity, you're tuning your interoceptive awareness, you're kind of making that dance between observing internal space and external space, and kind of, yeah, like moving between the two. And yeah, I think, as I've mentioned before, dance as a practice and something that is so complementary to voice is something that I can kind of speak to retrospectively, based on kind of early formative experiences with it, but then also in more recent, like the last couple of years, where I've been actually giving myself that space to make time to practice with it again, and to be, yeah, be more intentional about, yeah, I really need to build in time for this, because it is so supportive for everything. You know, it's another one of these practices that is holistic, and it is multidisciplinary, and that it is drawing from these pools of inspiration and schools of thought. So I think the two together, voice and movement or dance, are yeah, very, very complementary, very supportive. And actually finding language with the body through movement gives you tangible ways of actually expressing and articulating concepts of voice, because when you start to think about the body as an instrument and like a channel for expression, and you think about movement as story or song, like letting the body sing or letting the body express something, a particular frequency, a particular dynamic, like that's a really beautiful relationship to build, to be able to find more language to name things that are kind of often in this like unseen realm, you know, or to give voice to something that is a personal and internal experience. And the more language that we can find to help articulate that, in terms of, you know, translating insights and invitations for others to explore, in facilitation contexts and for teaching, I think that is like so useful. And it's also why it's great to be able to have space held for you by other practitioners that are working across different disciplines, because it allows you to receive and to experience what it is like to be affected by certain words or phrases. Like, you know, just that thing this morning of exploring the landscape of your body, like that has branched out and opened so many kind of like creative doors in my mind. And it's also, it's terminology that feels familiar to me based on the way that I talk about voice, or even just an affinity with natural and wild spaces. You know, you have anchor points or connections to concepts that sometimes it's just the way that someone says something and how it lands, when they're in a kind of transmission mode and you're in a receiving mode, that that can be really, really powerful. And I think, yeah, when you are taking on that role of responsibility or leadership in a kind of facilitation setting, it's so important to like keep exposing yourself to the experience of having space held for you, so that you can pour into yourself, so that you can be a better space holder. So yeah, lots of rich insights today, and also a nice reminder about how your whole day is set up for you when you choose to do something creative before you do anything else, you know, before you sit down to do admin tasks or, you know, yeah, get pulled into email land or any of that. Just having dedicated time to arrive in the world as a creative being. And yeah, we have to build space for that. We have to create room for that, and we have to defend that space as well. I spoke about that a few weeks ago, this idea that we really need to defend our creative space, because otherwise it does get consumed by other things. So check out that video if you haven't already listened to that. And yeah, I will catch up with you all soon, and I'm going to keep on kind of sharing in this vein with the creative overflow and insights, because I do feel this is an important these are important insights to share, and it's also, if I find it nourishing from a practice point of view, I know that there are things that will resonate with other practitioners, other space holders, students of this work, people that are engaged in research in the creative arts. You know, there are always things that we can share, and we don't know exactly who they will reach and who they will touch, but I'm continuing to share in this way because I trust and know that they will reach the people that need to hear it and are interested to hear it. Yeah, and if you want to join in the conversation, feel free as always to comment below. What is going on for you creatively right now? What are you allowing yourself to explore? What are you gifting yourself time to explore? Maybe it's a movement practice, maybe it's writing. Love to hear what you're up to at the moment, and yeah, hope that you stick with it and keep doing it, and remember to play. It's so important.